It's been described as arguably the most important surviving house of the romantic and picturesque style of architecture that flourished at the end of the 18th century and the beginning of the 19th. With a description like that, it was difficult not to be drawn to it. Highcliffe Castle is a Gothic revival mansion dating from 1836. As we approached it from the car park, its grand facade was certainly picturesque and impressive, promising equally grand interiors. However, that's all it is, a facade, as a series of fires in the late 1960s and early 70s have left it largely an empty shell. It's being gradually restored, and more rooms are being opened up to the public as they are completed. But in its form at the time we visited, it proved something of a disappointment. Even the tea rooms were closed. The property did, however, have its own private beach, accessed by a sloping zigzag path with clear views of the Isle of Wight. After our brief visit to Highcliffe Castle, we headed north to Salisbury to see its famous cathedral. It was built over a relatively short period of some 38 years, between 1220 and 1258, and is considered one of the leading examples of early English Gothic architecture. The tower and spire were completed by 1330, and at 123 metres tall is the tallest church spire in England. I'll admit that I've become somewhat blasé about churches and cathedrals, but the sheer scale of Salisbury was seriously impressive. On display in the adjacent chapter house is the best preserved of the 4 surviving original copies of Magna Carta. It was, unfortunately, housed in a protective booth that was full of school children at the time, so we didn't actually get to see it. After Salisbury, we headed back to our Henstridge base via Milton Abbey and the associated village of Milton Abbas near Blandford Forum in Dorset. Milton Abbey is now a private school for day and boarding pupils, numbering about 240. It has facilities that include a golf course, a 15th century dining hall, an abbey chapel that can be traced back to the 10th century, and grounds designed by Capability Brown. But in the late 1700s, it was the home of Lord Milton, the first Earl of Dorchester. At that time, it was fashionable for English landowners to improve the amenity of their homes by converting surrounding farmland into open parkland. Where buildings were deemed to spoil the view, they were removed, including whole villages and towns. Around 1780, Lord Milton decided that the adjacent market town of Milton was disturbing his vision of rural peace. He therefore commissioned an architect and a landscape gardener to design a new village, Milton Abbas, in a wooded valley to the southeast of the abbey. Most of the existing villages were relocated there. The previous village was demolished and the site landscaped. This planned community was said to be the largest such project in England at the time. The new village comprises 36 almost identical thatched cottages that were intended to house 2 families each. They were built from cob and previously painted yellow, with each house fronted by a lawn, and originally a horse chestnut tree was planted between each dwelling. On our last evening in the southwest of England, I had planned to splurge on dinner at an upmarket restaurant in the village of Milbourne Port, a short drive from our accommodation. The restaurant, called the Clockspire, occupied a building originally constructed in 1864 as a school. Up until 1981 it was still in use as a school, but has since been brought back to its former glory as a warm and welcoming restaurant and bar. I had booked a table from Australia months in advance so that we would be guaranteed a place on their infrequent live jazz sessions evening. They probably realised from my booking details that we were from Australia, so we got the royal treatment, being seated and initially served by the very Italian general manager in person. The ambiance was amazing, the live music germane, the food delightful, and the service impeccable.